What's up? Welcome to the Keys to Success. This is Rick. Tonight, I get to talk to one of the sweetest people that I know. His name is Stephen B. Walters. He's an actor here in New York that I met. Let's get Stephen. I'm sure you guys are really going to enjoy this. He's an amazing person if you've ever seen his gram. So let me find Stephen. How have y'all been? I haven't been on here in a while just because I've been out of the country. Let's wait. Let's wait till Steven comes in and he'll join us. I love how you popped up. You popped like right up. You're just like,
What's up?
hello. I'm really good. Everybody,
How are
Steven,
you?
Steven, everybody. Well, not everybody yet, but they're coming. Thank you so much
Hey,
for doing
friend.
this. No, it's like it's really amazing. It was
Yeah,
crazy. Like when
no.
I ran into you the other day, I was like, we were sitting there talking. I was like, oh my gosh, like I hadn't even thought like, why don't I ask Steven to like come? And people are weird. It's so crazy. Like people are tricky about getting on convos, but like you trust it, so that's cool.
Yeah, it's funny when I was thinking about it, I said, this morning when I was getting ready for my day, I was like, there's not a whole lot of people that I trust. And I think that, when you do these interviews
Thank you.
or these
Thank you.
conversations, let me correct myself, that it's really important to
Yes.
speak to someone that you could
You
trust.
see, heart on, got my
And I
heart on,
trust
like
you.
I put my heart on, because I was just like, I think I know you actually. Everybody's very specific when they talk to people. So the more that I have these conversations, I think it really opens up people's eyes to the platform, like what it is that we're doing, all that other kind of stuff. So yeah, so thank you for coming. Like, are you chilling? Where you at in the crib?
So
Okay.
I don't think that I ever really get to chill. And so I was doing
Okay.
multiple things. I am at home now, but the second that I get off the line with you, and there's no rush, I have
Oh
two
yeah, no,
things that are
I
committed
couldn't
to at the
commit to
same
anything.
time,
Like
so
we
I'll
were
figure it
talking,
out.
my friend Bruce, he was telling me about the thing in Brooklyn. I was just like, okay, yeah, maybe I'll make it. I said, but I don't know how this conversation is gonna go. I was like, I'm sitting in the house like, I ain't going nowhere.
Right, right, right.
And it's cold. So like everybody that knows this, watching this, I always open up the conversation by asking one of my guests or whoever my guest is, how did we meet? And you actually started this the other day, and I was like,
Okay.
stop, 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 don't tell me, don't tell me.
I did start it the other day, and I think that it's really powerful. We met at Harlem Nights probably a year ago. Probably a year ago. And through a mutual friend, Mike Moore. Shout out to Mike Moore. We were all just standing around chilling. And I knew Mike. I didn't know anybody else. And he was like, you know Ricky? You know Ricky, right? And I was like, no, I know Ricky. And I was like, hey, Ricky. You like, hey. And then we just kind of like had this synergy. And, we've seen each other at public events, private events, in
Yeah.
the street. And
It's
it's
so
always
easy. It's a,
been
you're
so
like
much
you're an easy
love.
person. You're one of those people like you see and you just like light up no matter like what the day is. So it's like that's funny. I didn't know it was Harlem Nights. I think that's so rare though. I have so much history in that goddamn place. Like it's so much. It's so much.
Yeah,
How long?
you
Where are you
consummated
from?
the
Are you from New
place.
York?
So I was born in Queens, raised in Atlanta or the suburbs outside of Atlanta, Gwinnett County. And then I came back here when I
What was Atlanta like?
was 19. Oh,
What's up?
wow. Atlanta was hard for me. A couple of reasons. My dad did the genius thing, but at the time we didn't feel like it was genius to move his whole family out of the city and essentially to have a better life. But that better life for me as a young Black male in the educational system was really rough. There was a lot of prejudice during that time, and there was like dissension about up north and south. And so I was
Oh
essentially
wow.
bullied by my teachers
Were
for
they like
many, many
predominantly
years.
black
Yeah,
teachers, white
yeah.
teachers? Or
And my mom,
oh wow.
white,
Those girls, I tell you.
predominantly white. Yeah. 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 And I think that like, we held grudges against my dad from forever, the whole time. We want New York. We want to go back to New York. All our family, everything we know is there. And so for the time that I was there, I left when I was 17 to go to college. Me, my sister, I felt like we was in slavery. We was playing in the Underground Railroad to get the heck up out of Georgia. Like seriously, like when I left, I was 17 and I went to college. My little
Mm-hmm.
sister, who was 14, she moved to New York. She moved
Yeah,
to New
you like
York.
you had
She
to
was like,
get
I'm not
out.
doing
It
this.
was
I'm not
giving
staying
get
here by
out.
myself. I
So
don't
when you came
care.
back to New York, wait, did
Yeah,
you have like
yeah, yeah.
fresher
So
eyes?
I was driven. I came back to New York. I dropped out of college. I went to Lincoln University, PA, LU. I dropped out of college to pursue modeling and acting. I always
Mm-hmm.
knew that I wanted to be in entertainment. And I didn't even want to go to
Yeah,
college. My cousin actually convinced me to go to college. And the second
yeah.
that I had a chance
I've
to
always
get to New
wondered,
York, I
like
was here.
in the middle, what my life experience would be had I been drawn to college. Like I never like pursued education further, but I always am wondering because it's like it's weird now being in like this age in life, and you're literally looking eye to eye to your peers. Like you went to college, this person didn't, and you're literally sitting in either the same interviews, the same rooms, the same chats. We have social media now, all that other kind of stuff. So it's just
You know, it's so funny because going to college and at HBCU was the best experience
mhm.
and decision that I was able to make. My parents,
A
my
pastor.
father's a pastor,
Oh, this
a
combo's
bishop,
gonna be
pastor. My mother,
good.
first lady. Yeah, of an apostolic
Wow.
Pentecostal church, like to this day.
Oh.
Yeah, and so they weren't invested in me going to college. They didn't do anything, and there's no shade. I'm just speaking the truth. They didn't do anything to invest in me to go to college. My cousin, who was 3 years or 4 years older than me at the time, came down from New York and like interviewed me and
Mm-hmm.
curated the schools that I should apply to. And I'm from Atlanta. All the HBCUs, a lot of them is down there, but I didn't want to be. I wanted to be as close to New York, and Lincoln University, PA
Yeah.
was to this day it was a gift from God. We celebrated 20 years of friendship. My friends that I went to Lincoln with, and I went through a
Mm.
series of depression after dropping out of school because it was the bond with my friends was so close and so tight. But I had to follow my dreams, and I felt like, did I make the right decision? Y'all all got degrees and good
Right. It's
salary
so
jobs. I'm still
tricky.
like this
And I
artist, and
swear
like
to God,
it
it
hit,
plays on your heartstrings, your
yeah,
mental, your relationships all the time because there is in that world, like in the scholar world, there is this kind of and like comparison always, I always feel like of, a person's degree, what they specialize in school in, and then looking at others as less than if they didn't, or like what their experience was and all of that.
yeah, yeah. I actually felt so. I dropped out of school. I didn't graduate from Lincoln. I dropped out, and I ended up like modeling was the second that I left. It was everything for like 2 or 3 years, and then the economy crashed and
Mhm.
everything went like a screeching halt. And I was blessed to work at a charter school, and I was working for the top charter school in New York City at the
Wow.
time without no degree, and I felt insecure and inadequate because
Oh
a lot of the
wow.
teachers came from Ivy League schools, and going back to intuition and all that kind of stuff, I created a program for boys that
Hmm.
basically administered cognitive behavioral therapy and vocation for them. And I think in my insecurity, I found some kind of like
Hmm.
vision and power for myself. Yeah, so like I know that
Yeah,
y'all
you
got
like
Ivy
I'm
Leagues,
over
but
here
I know how to
building
create some
shit.
shit. And listen, I feel like I come from a lineage, and you probably as well, of people
Yeah,
who work hard
100%.
and know how to make something out of nothing. And I also was able to see that there was a missing in the
Hmm.
school that was like quote unquote so successful. However, these particular boys
Wow.
are flunking out and going to jail. And so I'm blessed and I'm thankful. All of the boys that I mentored at my school, they graduated. So I have a
Congratulations.
hundred
That's
percent
amazing.
success rate from that school.
Yeah, that's
Yeah, and none of
amazing.
my boys is dead.
That's amazing.
Like, yeah, and we still have deep connections. Like, even as of today, I'm supposed to be headed somewhere after I
When
get
you
off
were
the Zoom
growing
from one of my
up, like
mentees.
knowing
So
that you wanted to be in the arts and things, like your dad being in the church and like a prominent figure in the church, was that like a difficult kind of exchange as a bit like his son? Like a lot of, I've always felt like people in the church have just a very specific, adamant way of keeping people in line with their legacy, regardless of letting them live their lives. Was that tricky?
thank you for that word. That was the
Yeah.
word. It was tricky. For two reasons. One, all of my life, even now,
Hmm.
all I want to do is please God. That's all I want to do. I want to make sure that God is happy and pleased with my life and how I contribute to the world. And so I always fought with, like, you go out for different modeling jobs and acting jobs, and like if there's cursing in there. My mom, she's always be like, I just want you to be like Eddie Winslow or Theo Huxtable. I just want you to have a
Eddie
role like that. And I'm
Winslow goes
like,
crazy.
that's not. Oh, my mom is, even to this day, she's dead serious. She wants me to play something nice and wholesome. And so I struggled with like the secular world and even music. There have been times where I would like buy a whole bunch of secular music and be into it. So this is where I come from. We couldn't listen to music like R&B music, anything other than gospel in a house. If they found a cassette tape or a
Seriously.
CD, they would throw it out the window. I would get whooped if I
Wow.
had BET on. And let me be clear with you, to this day. So when I go to my parents' house, like I respect them to like
Like
not
you
watch
when you go to
anything.
your
Like my mom,
parents,
she
it's
doesn't wear
Kleenex, no
pants, like
V,
none of that.
like not too much stress.
So I come as I am, and I think that like my mom used this term, and it never resonated with me. She's like, "You're so
Rebellious is so
rebellious. You're so
wild.
rebellious." Oh yeah, and I just always
Yeah.
thought that I was following what I knew. Like in the intro, I
Mm.
was like, I'm following God. So I come home like this, and my mom, she does one of these numbers. She's like, you just so exposed, and she touched me. I'm like, all right. But here's the gag. My dad was a model and an actor
See this
before I
and
was
see
born.
this, like that's where I just keep
And
going,
rock.
keep going.
So this is it's tricky. So my dad groomed me for modeling. So one day I was like, I don't want to go to college. I want to be a modeling actor. And he was in his little leather lazy boy. And he went underneath it and just showed me his portfolio. And
Hmm.
I fell in love and I lost it. And I was like, my dad was in movies and he was in these campaigns. I swear to you, Ricky, I used to study my dad's portfolio for
How
so
did your
many years.
dad
I still have
segue
it right now
into
to
the
this
church?
day.
Was he always a part of the church, and like did he hide that part of his life, or was it a thing?
He was always a part of the industry. He was
Industry.
always a part of the church. It was really, really rough for him because he was a young minister at
Hmm.
23 and like booking modeling jobs and stuff like that. What happened was he had 3 kids, and my mom was like,
Hmm.
"These jobs are not coming in fast enough." And this is my side of the story. My mom may say something different, but basically she was like, "You got to
These
choose."
kids ain't gonna feed themselves.
And so I never. There was 3 of us, and it's funny. I don't think about my days
Yeah.
of being really poor often, but
I
that's
mean,
when we
I
was
still
really,
like
really
we all
poor,
still have.
really poor.
I'm always like poor doesn't mean monetary to me anymore. You know what I mean? Because there's some way to always kind of get money. The poorness come from like emotional stuff, or like very poor, like in that level. Like I don't have enough in my cup, little stuff. So it's just like those still happen as artists to me, in that space. But it's interesting that your dad would have that past, but not see. But do you think it was like his trials and tribulations that he just didn't want to? You know how like when we're kids, a lot of things that our parents do, we find out it's just like, how are you going to say this to me? But in their eyes, they see it as protection. This is what I do, boo.
You
This is what I
are
do.
on it. Like, it's interesting. It's really, really interesting because my dad, it's weird. It's tricky. My dad was
He
always
understood.
supportive of me being in the arts. And and he had to move a certain type of way because like my mom was like really about the church, and my dad is too, but my dad is an artist. And so like the beginning stage, the age of 14, my dad would like take the little wind up Polaroids and like take pictures of me and just like tell me how to pose and tell me to take care of myself. And then
Really,
it just
just
came to a
abrupt.
screeching halt stop.
Do you think what's your relationship with your dad now?
Oh, we are doing this. I love my dad so much.
You said,
And
"Ooh, we are doing this."
what do I want to say?
You said, "Ooh, we are doing this."
Huh? Yeah, because I think that there's you going right in. My dad. I need to say this. I hated my dad. Oof.
Oof.
I hated my dad as a kid.
Mm.
I hated him. And you know, time in doing this kind of work heals a lot of
Mm.
things. And I love him so much. Having my own kids and having my own life and being an
Like
adult, you just
adulthood
understand things a lot
changes
differently. It
everything.
doesn't.
I think that like as kids, I had a tough relationship with my mother, but I think that over
Okay.
time as I got older, my mom had health issues, and as I got older, I kind of had the words to articulate what was issues in the relationships and things of that nature. But then I also kind of found my tribe of friends and people that were like me and, shared similar stories. Whereas though I think a lot of that anger and resentment kind of lifted off of me when I found likeness in people, the idea that there were people like me going through the same. You know how like when you're going through something, for some reason, we all have this way of feeling like it's just us. I'm the only one going through this. I'm the
Yes.
only one that's
Yes.
going through this. And I think as I got older, it really came through. But that's an interesting thing because it's like it only happens when you're older. Did you feel like it was too late? Yeah.
Actually, no. My dad said this about a couple of years ago, and I was able to digest it and receive it, but not out loud. He was like, "Every man needs their dad. It doesn't matter how old you are." And I
Yeah.
I, I need my dad. Like having a kid and family. How do you do this, right? Negotiating certain things just to be somebody to understand you. I'm actually writing a book about me and my relationships, my relationship with my dad, actually, as we speak, and it's really about coming to terms with the idea that like I am my father's child, good, bad, or
Hmm.
indifferent,
Like
and to
all
like
of
just love
the whole
that,
part of it. Yeah.
to love it,
Cause you
to
don't get to
love it.
slice out the bad
Yeah, and
parts.
like I think no, and the bad parts, I challenge myself to that is not even bad. It just is, you know. I got a chance to see my dad's life, and I have so much
Hmm.
empathy for him. I don't excuse shit, but I'm like, this is where
Hmm.
you came from. Cheers, baby. And it's happening. I said these words to my dad last year. His mom passed away. I'm saying a whole lot, but I don't care. And I said essentially, I said, so it's almost like you're living a nightmare at the age of 60 something years old. And he looked at me, he says, and in that
Hmm.
moment, I just immediately forgave him. That I can't fathom living a nightmare
That is
for 60
the
plus
most
years.
intense thing. I couldn't imagine.
Yeah.
I look at a lot of relationships when it comes to parents and things like how kids, because we always thought we all have parents, so it starts with us. Then you get to know your friends' parents and different things of that nature, and there's so much that parents and the livelihoods. We have
parents that got married that never wanted, you know what I mean? But they did it for those things. But there's something that you suppress in that. Like, did you ever have conversations like of therapy and the things of that nature? Was that like a forbidden thing? Is he one of the prayer cures everything kind of people?
This is so
Well, it's
interesting because I
not. We're
had no
moving
idea this
on.
was gonna be
It's
about
just
my damn
like
daddy.
it's just the one stop on the train.
No, and I actually don't. No, I actually don't have a problem with it. I think that,
Yeah,
like
I
I
was
said to
just.
you,
I think
whatever
more
comes
so
up,
for
I ain't
me,
scared.
I'm
Whatever
so
comes up.
intrigued that your dad is in the clergy. Like,
Yeah, so a couple of things. My dad was ahead of his time and is ahead of his time. He's always been that way. And so although we never been to therapy together, I don't think that my dad has ever been to therapy. Um, I'm the
mhm.
only one in my family that I know of that goes to therapy. And although like they like because it was, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, like don't tell your business, all that kind of stuff. They're gonna give you medicine to make you crazy, all these different things. I've been in therapy for about 10 years now. And then my mom, I think that this is a step forward. And my dad doesn't say it, but my mom's like, did you go see a therapist? Did you talk to your therapist about this? And so I think that they see that it's supportive and it works for
Mhm.
me, but they're not at that space necessarily just yet
I
to cross that threshold. And so my dad, sorry, I didn't find out till 2 years ago that my father has 2 bachelor's degrees. And I
wow.
think one of them was
And I
in
was gonna say, like,
psychology.
yeah,
So,
I literally I found therapy late
yeah.
in life. When I guess it found me when I needed it, but it was a very triggering kind of thing because when I never had to come out to my parents, but when my mom kind of just had no other answers that my baby gay, like literally was just like, and I
Okay.
understand, and we'll get you therapy. She said this to me in the car as she was picking me up from a friend of mine's house. And I had spent the night over their house, and when she came, I was the only one in pajamas. She coming to the, what are they doing to you? And what is that? I'm like, no, it's not anything. But on that ride home, her telling me that she was going to get me therapy always stayed with me in this idea that this is something I don't need. You know what I mean? I don't need therapy. Like, because the way
Oh,
that she projected it to me was as if it was going to cure me being gay. And I'm like,
understand.
there's
Oh,
nothing
okay.
wrong. You know what
Got
I
it.
mean? I've always just been a headstrong kind of person. That what was that situation? Have you ever had to go through that? Your facial expressions kill me like all the time. It's so fucking. You just be like, it's just like, was that a thing?
Can you be really
Your
clear about what you're
did you
asking
ever
me?
have a coming out process? Have you ever had to go through those kind of conversations?
So, I don't know if you're aware. I came out
That's like three
in
years ago.
2018. And yeah, and technically
Right.
speaking, I haven't like come out to the world,
Oh,
technically
wow.
speaking.
Yeah.
And I don't believe in that. I've always been I've
Mhm.
always been a private person. And I just feel like if it
Mhm.
comes up in conversation, that we will address it. But about my parents, I felt an obligation because I'm so close to them. I love them so much that I felt an
Mhm.
obligation to come out to them when it happened. And I don't know if this was the best mode of operandi, but I told my dad and my sister first. And I didn't
Is
tell
your
my
mom the
mom till
more
like 6 to
religious?
9 months later, and they lived in the same.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, like yes. But they lived in the same house, and I didn't tell her till 9 to 6 months later. And my dad and my sister was like, "You better tell your mom. You gotta tell your mom." And for me,
Mhm.
I just wanted to process things when it was right. Right now, Ricky. So my family
Mhm.
and I are not that close right now,
Really?
because of it. Absolutely. And I think there's something to be said in the regards
Yeah.
of like, this is
It's
new
even
for
new. I mean,
everybody,
it's new for
right?
you.
And
Like
you
you
don't,
at the root of it all.
right, it's new for me, but it's also new for my family to process and try to figure out what's happening. And so what I will say is that this is a little touchy for me. And I want to be
You
very,
have
very, very
you
clear
know,
about that. No, but I think that it's important. So I spoke to my dad and my sister about it, and they responded in the ways that they responded. And then I waited 6 to 9 months to tell my mom, and my mom is a bad bitch, and she was like, she was like, she was like, I took her out to eat or what have
so
you. And I was
sorry,
like,
but
Mom, I just want to tell you, blah blah blah. And essentially, I'm trying to figure out if I want to say what she said. She said some things to me. I'm gonna say what she said. She said, she said, "You mean to tell me you're a homosexual?"
that's what it means, mama. That's what it means.
And I was like, yeah, ma, yeah. And she was like, you're going to hell, right? And I was like, and then this is what she said. She says, "Is that all you had to tell me?" And I said, yeah, yeah. She says, "I don't agree with all of that, but I love you." Uh,
That's it's like, I would always listen to my friend's parents was like really hard with that, and my parents would always tell us, you're my baby and I love you. But then you would hear them talk about somebody like, don't have with that nigga down the street, 'cause it's and you're like, but it's me.
right, right. Yeah. So what is interesting, my dad and my sister responded a different way. And everybody responds in their ways. I read energy. And what I read from my mom was like, that's it. That's what you gotta tell me. I don't really care or understand that. I don't really agree with that. But you my son. Like, okay, this is what we got. Like the energy shifted. Like, so that's all you gotta tell me. Like, she's like, she said she paused and she held me. She said, "Is there anything else that you want to tell me?" And I was like, "No, that's all I'm gonna tell you." Um, no, it was really like, this is real deep, Ricky. It was almost as if like that was the burden that was on your chest. I was waiting for something a little bit like it was like she was in that weird exchange. It was like, I just want to relieve you of like the pressure. And I remember I got into the car. And she was like, she just tapped my hand. She just tapped my hand. And I was like waiting for something more. And I was like, I just felt the real love from my mom. And like so with all of them, we have not really broached that conversation to this day. Me and my sister, we just started to like rekindle the relationship. We just started to have conversation, like small conversation about it. And what I've come to terms with is that like, some of us queer people feel like people should be so empathetic and understand, which is like, yeah, cool. But this is something different for your whole family. And what I gather from like my sister in many ways is like, I don't know what you're gonna become. Like she said, I feel like I don't know you anymore. My brother died. And that's like heavy. And it's like, oh, you can be in your feelings about it. But like I concur with what she's saying. Like, I don't know what's about to come. Are you gonna start dressing like a woman? Do you like hate women? All these things. Do you like, it's a whole lot, right? And so there's a level of empathy that I have with my family,
Yeah,
but I
and
also honor
I
myself
think
first.
that's the part
So I don't
that is the hardest, though, because there's something innately in us as kids that we're like our parents are our first heroes, you know, in some way, shape,
yeah. Yeah. So to answer your question, I don't, and I think it's a couple of things that's layered, but I don't really like hear from my family as much as people may think. I don't. I don't. This my mom just called me actually just this week. I haven't spoken to them in a month, about a month, and they live in Queens. But I also in tandem with right in Queens, right over the bridge. But what I am aware of is that like my family is super indoctrinated into the church. And so if my life is not about the church also, there's not much space for me in my existence on top of the fact that I'm gay. And so many months thereafter, even though I came out to them, uh, it has been extremely uncomfortable to go up to my parents' house. There's been many times where I have to like wash myself off because I'm so triggered by so many things. And I've come to a place where I express my triggers and I really vocal like, yeah, like this is about, I don't want to come around about these particular things. And also just like, don't show up. Mm, absolutely. Absolutely. I had a question for you. You said two things. You said your mother left, and I don't know what that means. She's an angel. I like the way you say it. Oh, oh, you don't even use the word transition. Yeah. Yeah. Facts. Same here. We're mirroring each other on that note. You said something about like basically you was always surrounded by love, also knowing who you are, and I'm having a problem with that. And so can you elaborate on like the love aspect? And so what I mean by that is that like I I I believe that my family loves me, but I question a lot of things. Like how can you yeah, gotcha. Legendary. Wow. Um, what I will say is my dad is he's like my number one supporter. Like out of everybody in my family, my dad comes through. Yeah, no, my dad, that's why I'm like so thankful about the transition of our relationship. Because I cannot imagine in a million years that like this is the relationship that I have with my dad. We do. Mm. Oh, facts. Yeah. Mm. Yeah, I have a question for you in that regards because when I came out to my dad, one of the things that I remember him saying is basically like, "What's gonna happen to my name?" Right? And so as I'm listening to you and think about my dad, I think that is a huge part of like guilt that they carry. Well, I think the guilt. What I was speaking about is like from them. Okay, got it. Got it. Yeah. Yeah. What relationships? So, I'm gonna actually flip your question and answer it how I want to. Um, yeah, coming from the Apostolic Pentecostal denomination, I was going back and forth on that or whether me being an artist was God's will. Like it was some heavy psychological shit. I would like go hard for my career and then I would just like crash and get heavy in the church, like back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And so now the world is seeing a lot of repressed artistry. So I'm just like doing everything, right? And so I was always a special kid. Like I was in special ed. My parents called me a prophet. I always thought differently. I was always creating something. And so I think that me as an artist and the point to artist was is essentially taking care of my health. For me to create, for me to write, for me to sing, for me to do poetry, for me to create stuff, I'm literally taking care of my health. Like it helps me with my anxiety. I talk to God. Like it's essential for my health. And so like especially during COVID, that is a part of the reason why like I'm alive. Like I worked in a charter school for 13 years and I was singing. And I didn't realize that I was singing. Like my students and teachers were like, oh, that's you, Walters, because I heard you singing and I'm doing that to keep myself alive. And so I don't know if that answers your question, but it had my religion as far as like, oh, my relationship with my parents was really seldom in regards to me and my artistry. I think the correlation is that both of my parents are artists. So my mom, my first acting job, wow, this is so powerful, Ricky. You're an angel. My first acting job was an angel in a church play that my mom put on. And I remember having this overly sized white t-shirt and like a hanger for wings. My mom created all of this. My mom used to make hats. Huh? Okay. Okay. No, for real. I was dragging in that. My mom created church plays and my mom is a visionary. Like my mom is vision. I get that from my mom. And yeah, my first play was an angel at the age probably like a 4 in a play, and I just loved the imagination aspect of it. And then my dad, he was a model, he was an actor, he was a singer. My father was a writer, and so like that stuff was just always around the house. Yeah, so I didn't think of it as anything special. It's just like that's what like here go daddy again with the guitar or him singing. My father he has a beautiful voice. Oh my God. And like I said, my mom, so like that was an influence for me is that like they were always creating something in the house. But I think that my biggest influence of art is my older sister. She I learned how to do hair from her. She was a kitchen beautician and I taught myself. Yeah, yeah. And so my sister would do acrylic nails in the house and have everybody in the house high. She would do stuff with her hair and just create stuff. And I think that that was a heavy influence on me. I'm clear that like, yeah, yeah. Somebody said that the sound is one-sided, so I don't know if they're only hearing you. Yeah. Okay. Copy. Really? What is your chart? Because we are the same, and people don't know that. Yes. Copy. Okay. Okay. So I'm a Cancer, Pisces, Virgo. Yeah. I absolutely agree. Like the Virgo actually helps me to get stuff done. Mm. Mm. Yo, you preaching. Mm. Absolutely. Cancer, Pisces, Virgo. Yeah. Two water and an earth. I have been getting into it. Once again, my religion was like, that's voodoo. You're not supposed to do that. So the last 3 years, yeah. Um, so the last, I want to say 3.5, maybe 4 years, I've actually been diving into it. I'm definitely a Cancer. I'm a healthy Cancer. How about that? Because I think that I'm doing my work on myself. I'm going to therapy. I'm studying my signs, and I'm understanding my gifts. We are so emotional that I think that going back to the Virgo and the Earth aspect and the human aspect of it all is that everything ain't that serious. We're going to give and love and pour, and we expect you to match that. It's like y'all, we're superheroes, okay? We're emotional superheroes, and so I work really hard on balancing those aspects of myself. I am extremely sensitive, and I don't look at that as a good or bad thing. I have to study it so that it won't control me. Yeah. Yeah. When I am ruminating, when I can't ruminating, I'm just thinking about like when if you and I had an exchange and I'm thinking about it so much that I actually can't even get my work done, right? That I learned to take feedback. And so if I'm in a relationship with you and you're like expressing to me like, I'll give you a prime example. I had to take a little mental note for myself and then realize that everybody's not like me. I tell people that I love them and I mean it. If I share life with you, meaning we had a deep ass conversation and we share personal things about my life, you my family. And it's not an obsessive thing, but like I'm gonna greet you with like I greet you with love. I'm gonna hold you. I'm gonna hug you. I really rock with you. And in the earth realm, most people are not like that. Like I have no problem with telling somebody that I love them, and I mean it. It ain't never loose for me. I mean it. I mean it. And like something as simple, if I say like, "How are you doing?" I absolutely mean it. I want to pause. I'm going to wait to see what you have to say. And if your energy is telling me something different, because I care about you, I'm going to ask further. Most people go about their business. So, Steve, even though that's you, like wheel it in certain, I guess another aspect of where it can get out of, not out of control, but it can be problematic is that professional and personal settings. You know what I mean? So, yeah. And for me to work with anybody, I got to feel like your family. And so I had to have a boundary for myself mentally to like, yeah, this is how I operate, but make sure there's a boundary, Steve, so that you won't hold people to expectations that are not realistic. Absolutely. I don't know if it's the Cancer and Pisces. I don't know if it's the prophet that God placed. I don't know. This is who I am. I don't know. I really like, I don't know. I don't know. I need to get like you. Like I had to tell myself that. Yeah. Okay. Eight responses. All right. Awesome. All right. Cool.